She is the strongest master of the sect, but because she is a woman, she cannot inherit the position of the sect leader. Looking at Thao, the successor to the sect leader, she was determined to go to the forbidden area to find the soul-reversing bone and cultivate a capable disciple to inherit the sect leader position. But after a retreat, she discovered that her obedient and understanding disciple had imprisoned her. "Why are your small feet shackled?" A familiar voice echoed. "Master, do you know how long I have waited for this moment?" Seeing him, she was extremely angry and confused, shouting, "You wicked disciple, what nonsense are you talking about? Let me go quickly." He sat down on the bed, smugly blaming her. "Isn't it you who started teasing me first, master? What's wrong? Have you turned your back on me now?" After hearing this, she still didn't understand what he was talking about, so she insisted, "I don't know what you're saying." A resigned Zhu Yun Cheng sighed. "Well, whatever you say is what it is." After all, his face showed no signs of disturbance, indicating that now the disciple had indeed softened the bones for her. "The chains are already locked for you. No matter what, you must rebel against me until the end." "Then don't blame me, master." As soon as he finished speaking, he wildly embraced her, his mischievous hands even pulling down her clothes. Seeing his despicable actions, Tu Nin was taken aback, frowning and scolding. "You brat Zhu Yun Cheng, have you gone mad?" He replied, "That's right." Saying that, he casually bit her hand. "You haven't scolded me yet, saying that I was driven to madness by you." At this moment, his hand also tightened around her bare back, shamelessly kissing Tu Nin's breasts, causing her to turn away in embarrassment. She wondered, how did it come to this? How did it become like this? She recalled when Zhu Yun Cheng was young, he was a very obedient boy, listened well, and politely called her master. Now he has grown up and become a rebellious disciple. What on earth happened during the time I was in seclusion? The demonic path was rampant everywhere, and it was also the year Tu Nin came of age. As the strongest sword cultivator of the Diem Thuong sect, she led her fellow disciples to exterminate demons and eliminate monsters. She was the successor of the sect leader Master Kam Diem, but shortly after the sect leader passed away, the attitude of the elders changed. They used the excuse that women cannot hold power to let a playboy senior disciple inherit the position of sect leader. She was unconvinced and said, "Based on what?" "Just because he has 2 more muscles on his body?" Seeing her useless senior brother made her furious. Tu Nin stood in front of the forbidden area, telling herself, "Just wait, once I open the barrier of the forbidden area and find the legendary forbidden technique, I will completely change the rules of succession in the sect." At that moment, Tu Nin suddenly noticed a crack in the forbidden area. With a loud bang, something flew out from inside, leaving her dazed. It turned out to be a boy who fell face first to the ground. She worriedly stepped forward to help him up. "Hey, are you okay? Wake up." At this moment, the weak boy groaned a few times, trembling and pointing towards the forbidden area, saying, "Hurry, seal the cave, or else the demon clan." Hearing this, she frowned in shock. The demon clan? Before Xiao Ning could react, strange black shadows with blood-red eyes appeared behind the gap, heading towards the 2 of them. They were grotesque and were scrambling to escape outside. Xiao Ning panicked and thought, "So the forbidden area is the entrance to the demon clan. I must seal it quickly." Saying this, she used all her strength to create a barrier right in front. After struggling for a few hours, they were stopped. Xiao Ning was now sweating, forcing a smile and saying, "Haha, it's just sealing a cave, yet it consumed almost all my spiritual power. If after opening the door the result is unimaginable, then it seems she won't be able to find the forbidden technique." She staggered to her feet, looked at the boy and thought, "This child can escape the demon clan's pursuit alone. Definitely not an ordinary person." Thinking of this, she grabbed the boy and looked at him with malicious intent. "If this boy becomes my disciple, I will guide him to become the sect leader, then I will use my identity as his master to command the disciples of the sect." Tu Nin hugged him proudly. "This plan is also good. I will treat the boy's wounds first." She quickly took him back to educate him, then helped him conceal his identity to join the sect. The boy was only 7 years old then. Later, when he turned 10, she devoted herself to teaching, nurturing him to become the strongest disciple of the sect. Thus, during a battle, Tu Nin unfortunately got injured. She had to enter seclusion to heal, and worriedly instructed her little disciple, "Van Trin, I have to go into seclusion for a few years to heal my injuries. You must work hard to cultivate on your own, do not be lazy. He was moved, tears streaming down as he replied, Yes, I understand, Master. I will definitely cultivate well not to disgrace my master. Hearing this, she left reassured. When I emerge and return to reality, Xiao Ning did not expect that her obedient disciple had grown up but turned out like this. She angrily shouted, When I emerge, will you look like this? She pushed him away with her hand, but he still shamelessly said, Master, did you know? I originally wanted to do these things with you a few years later, but you kept teasing me. How could I endure it? Ah. She turned her face away in embarrassment, exclaiming, Crazy, this kid is really crazy. Xiao Ning took the opportunity while he wasn't paying attention to gather a bit of spiritual power in her palm. She gathered a bit of the recovered spiritual energy, her eyes brightened. But after waiting for half a day, the chains showed no signs of moving, and Von Trien once again pressed her hard down onto the bed. She looked at her wrist still tightly bound with not a single sign of relief. She asked in astonishment, So it doesn't have any effect? Von Trien replied, Wow, your spiritual power recovers so quickly, Master is really impressive. He stated, Unfortunately, this is a mystical iron made just for you, it can't be broken. He held her arm tightly, whispering, It's just because I want to guard against my master pushing me out again, I can only offend a little. She was startled upon hearing this. What exactly do you want to do, Truk Ventring? Gently holding her hand in his, he smiled wickedly and said, Didn't I make it clear earlier? He did not hesitate to say, Well, I want to do some incredibly disrespectful things to Master. Saying that, he leaned against the fair shoulder of Tu Nin. She helplessly tried to stop him. No, you can't. He ignored her and boldly placed a hot kiss on her shoulder. She began to gasp, her emotions becoming unbalanced. She scolded, Truk Ventrin, you're so rude. His large body pressed against her and she couldn't escape. She thought to herself, Damn it, my spiritual power that just recovered has been suppressed again. Should I really just let him do this? We are master and disciple, it absolutely cannot happen. She was pinned down on the bed by him. Tu Nin closed her eyes tightly, telling herself, Such a ridiculous thing, how could it be allowed to happen so easily? I must stop him. She bit her lip, trying to endure suddenly feeling blood at the corner of her mouth. But it helped her think of the smell of blood. That's right, she could use the Tianzi Gu to escape. She recalled when she first saved Truk Ventrin, wanting to guard against him losing control in the future, so she secretly administered Tianzi Gu to him. This poison is nourished by fresh blood. When used, I will drop my own blood on his body, then chant a spell, and he will feel as if thousands of threads are piercing through his body, causing unbearable pain. Tu Nin widened her eyes, looking at the wretched disciple before her. After so many years, he still hasn't revealed his demonic nature. I had forgotten about this. Without thinking much, she kissed his cheek. Who would have thought it would happen at such a time? Truk Ventrin was stunned, rubbing his face, exclaiming, Master, you didn't let him finish speaking just now. She interjected, Use blood as medicine to connect with threads. His eyes widened in surprise. In an instant, countless golden threads appeared all over his muscular body. He panicked and asked, What the hell is this? At that moment, Tu Nin secretly pulled up her clothes and explained, The Tianzi Gu is something you must have heard about the dangers of. If you don't want to suffer quickly, release Visu. He was stunned and questioned. You actually administered Tianzi Gu to me. When did you do that? Why didn't I know? Thinking of this disappointment flickered in his eyes. Could it have been a long time ago? But in an instant, Truk Ventrin laughed maniacally. Heh, how foolish. I thought Master was taking the initiative to be nice, but in reality, you had been wary of me long ago. He placed his hand on his chest, called her name directly, and asked, Tu Nin, have you not had any genuine feelings for me all these years? Even the master-disciple relationship is fake. She didn't want to argue with him, so she coldly ordered, Talking more is useless. Quickly untie the chains for me. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the suffering of Tianzi Gu. But Zhu Yun Cheng was not as easy to deal with as she thought. He brutally grabbed her beautiful face with his hand. He looked at her with a passionate expression, asking, What if you don't follow what I say? As things escalated, she coldly recited the incantation. His whole body began to tremble. He gritted his teeth in anger. Yes. Zhu Yun Cheng gently pushed his hand to wipe the blood from Xiao Ning's lips and struggled to say, Master really is someone who can be so cruel. Yet she did not show mercy, continuing to close her eyes and recite the spell. He screamed in agony, Ah! His body could no longer withstand it and collapsed, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. Zhu Yun Cheng gasped for breath. He was sweating and reproached Xiao Ning. You are really cruel. She felt a bit moved seeing him like that, reminding him, If you can't bear it quickly, release me. He stubbornly tightened his grip, insisting, You can't escape. He raised his face and laughed maniacally, suggesting, If you are willing, then just kill me. Xiao Ning frowned, advising him not to cling to his delusions anymore. This time I will spare you. Go outside, think it over carefully. He was unconvinced, replying based on what? Zhu Yun Cheng seemed to go mad. He covered his face with his hands, sneering, stating clearly that for many years it was just the two of us relying on each other. What basis is there that in the end only you want someone to the point of madness, while the other can still continue to act as master and disciple with you calmly? His thoughts became distorted. He said he had been living in a dirty darkness with no concept of hope in the future. You were the one who saved me. Taught me how to write over the years. How could I not like you? He remembered when he was young, every time he was beside her made him feel bittersweet. But you also understand we are master and disciple. This bond between master and disciple cannot exist in the secular world. Therefore, I have never said that I want to bury these feelings deep in my heart. At this point, Zhu Yun Cheng's voice became furious, shouting, But you are the one who actively flirted with me. Xiao Ning frowned at this, confused. What? I actively flirted with you. He insisted. That's right. It was you who spoke first. He grimaced, sneering, recounting, You called me by my nickname, held my hand, touched my face. Why don't you want to admit it now? Zhu Yun Cheng clutched his chest painfully, stepping out the door, mumbling, Enough whether you admit it or not, it doesn't matter. Everything is nothing now. I will not let you off. He turned back with a determined face, saying, Master, you are mine and can only be mine. Hearing that, Zhu Nin was also confused. She sat still on the bed, frowning and wondering what he was actually talking about. Clearly, I have always been in seclusion. How could I actively flirt with him? There must be something strange about this. She began to concentrate, thinking, The heavenly wisdom ancient connects to the bloodline of the host and the poisoned person. Tonight I will push the heavenly wisdom ancient into his dream. Perhaps I will find some clues. On a late night at Nintamcat, Truk Van Trien was sleeping soundly. Zhu Nin used a talisman to connect with his body. Her feet gently entered Truk Van Trien's dream. She sadly observed her surroundings. The first place she entered was an abandoned temple. Finally, she was in Truk Van Trien's dream. Her eyes widened as she looked around. Here is Zhu Nin. Looking to the side, she saw an image of herself resting with him after a battle. At that time, Truk Van Trien was just a teenager. She rubbed her chin and remembered, Oh, it was 5 years ago, the first time I took the boy down the mountain to exorcise demons. Back then, the boy wasn't very grown up, yet he stayed up all night to watch over me when I was injured. During that time, what a good child he was. Suddenly, he stared at her while she was sound asleep. Why is the boy looking at me like that? Taking advantage of Zhu Nin not knowing Truk Van Trien secretly kissed her. After realizing he had done something inappropriate, he hurriedly said, I'm sorry, Master, I didn't mean to. She was surprised and covered her mouth with her hand. Did Truk Van Trien do this back then? At such a young age? A moment later, Zhu Nin was taken to another place. She was momentarily stunned and asked, Has the scene in the dream changed? Is this my chamber? She shivered when she heard her voice coming from behind. Van Trien, come here. At this moment, Truk Van Trien had become a handsome young man, making her curious to turn around. He seriously asked, Master, it's late, but you called me here. Isn't there something you need to tell me? Why is Zhu Nin wearing heavy makeup? Her beauty seems somewhat sharp. She said, What's wrong? Don't you like your master now? Seeing herself reaching out to caress Truk Van Trien's face left her astonished. What is this? Is this what Truk Van Trien imagined during the day and then dreamed about at night? Or is this something that actually happened? He sweated and replied, No. It's just that I feel like Master suddenly changed. A bit strange, she playfully continued, What's so strange about it? Is it strange because it's cute? He frowned. His face began to blush, but he consciously pushed her hand away, then maintained his calm demeanor and respectfully said, I'm sorry, Master, you should rest early. I have to go back now. Saying that, he swaggered away. Seeing this scene, she was astonished. The boy had pushed her hand away. Her worried face thought, could this really be what Von Trien was talking about? I used to actively flirt with the boy, but I forgot for some reason. But why does Von Trien oppose me so much? Her heart suddenly pounded. A bit of pain made Von Trien sit up. Over here, Xiao Ning also returned to reality. It seemed she realized the boy was awake. She looked at her hands, feeling a bit regretful, said, I can sense that the boy is in pain, so he woke up. Today I've been too harsh on the boy. She closed her eyes tightly, blaming herself. I shouldn't have dealt with the problem so violently. Wait for him to come here tomorrow. I need to ask him clearly and clarify this matter. A few hours later, it was still dark outside. Truk Von Trien couldn't sleep, so he went to the Tung Kin Sach. He held a book in his hand, saying, I remember seeing a way to counteract Tien Tu Ko for some book. He flipped through a few pages, suddenly stopping his gaze. He exclaimed joyfully, Found it. The book mentioned that the blood of Tien Tu Ko and the user of the technique were connected. If a poisoned person uses their blood to let the user drink, then the user will lose control and become aroused. He smiled with delight. Truk Von Trien is sure, Master, you won't escape this time. The next morning, Truk Von Trien came to find Xiao Ning very early. He gently asked, Master, did you sleep well last night? His words startled her. She was eager to say, You came at the right time, I have something to talk to you about. He exclaimed in surprise, Oh. He sat down on the bed and happily asked, What is it, Master? It's rare for you to want to talk to me. She went straight to the point. Tell you that Master has actively pursued you, but I really can't remember this matter. So let me investigate clearly later. I will definitely give you an explanation. Xiao Ning was sad, his face downcast, reminding her. Besides that, Master also wants to tell you that people at a young age can easily become dependent on and respect their elders, but that is not affection. Before she finished her sentence, he sighed, making her pause. His eyes showed disappointment. He blamed her. I really didn't expect that Master not only turned against me, but now completely denies my feelings. Truk Von Trien complained, glaring at her, and asked, Doesn't Master remember how you flirted with others? For example, inviting Tu Su Ba late at night. She was also shocked to hear this. What, me and Tu Su Huin? How surprising. He took a small knife from his sleeve, even stopping her from continuing. All right, Master, don't pretend anymore. You can admit it or not, it doesn't matter. He said disappointingly, I don't want to linger anymore. Saying that, he used the knife to cut into his palm. Xiao Ning saw this and was wide-eyed, astonished. Truk Von Trien raised her blood-stained hand in front of her to the astonishment of Xiao Ning. He put those drops of blood into her mouth and unconsciously Xiao Ning swallowed them. She let out a soft moan. Xiao Ning grimaced, trembling all over, stammering, Cough, I cough. He casually bandaged his wound, then smugly said, Master, don't blame me. I'll be quick. You will feel very happy. She suddenly broke into a cold sweat. Her face flushed, wondering what was happening. It seemed her body was getting hot. Truk Von Trien stepped forward, lifted her face with his hand, and said, Master, right now it's just me in front of you. Please don't resist anymore. She trembled in fear, but still refused with her mouth. He gently touched her neck, then violently tore her clothes apart, looking at her like before. When he was in seclusion, his eyes unable to contain anyone else but her. She weakly resisted. She couldn't let go of his hand. Her whole body was burning, gasping heavily. Truk Von Trien, you can't stop right now. He frowned crazily. Insisting to stop the Master is about to belong only to you. How could you stop? I really want to possess the Master as my own, immediately, never letting anyone else see. She was angry, grinding her teeth. Xiao Ning looked helplessly at him, threatening Truk Von Trien. If you really do it, I will never forgive you for the rest of your life. Hearing that, he widened his eyes in worry. His hand around her waist also froze. The atmosphere in the room was extremely tense. Suddenly, a noise came from outside. Xiao Ning remembered that this bell was connected to the gate outside the courtyard, which clearly meant someone was coming. He pondered, I can pretend I didn't hear it. After all, if someone comes, they won't discover this secret, as the Master said earlier. Not wanting her to hate him, he pretended to tease someone is coming. The master is really lucky. Truk Van Trien let her go and said, "The emotional energy of your blood has already been compressed for the master. I'm afraid you can't handle it." Tu Nin was embarrassed, trying to pull her clothes to cover her body. Then he stood up and turned to leave. "I'm going to work first. See you again tonight, master." She sadly murmured, not expecting him to be so stubborn, completely not hearing what I said. Tu Nin regained her composure, telling herself she couldn't drag it out any longer. She had to find an opportunity to take some of his spiritual power and think of a way to seek help. After Truk Van Trien finished his work, he came to Nin Tam to find Tu Nin. He brought a bowl of porridge in his hand. He kindly said, "This is the porridge from Lam Van Kai that the master likes the most. I specially went down the mountain to buy it. Please try it." She was surprised to hear that the porridge from Lam Van Kai. Suddenly her eyes lit up as if she had thought of something. The opportunity had come. She stared at him and recalled that Van Trien didn't like the taste of porridge, so he had never tried this porridge and didn't know what was inside. After thinking, she pretended to obediently eat it. But just for a moment, she started coughing violently. She covered her mouth with her hand and said, "Why is this porridge so salty?" Truk Van Trien looked at her in confusion. Tu Nin acted as if it were real, continuing to provoke him. "If you don't believe me, then you should try it." He happily said, "I share a spoon with my master to eat porridge. Can this be considered?" Looking at him, she slowly put a spoonful of porridge into her mouth, feeling a bit nervous inside. "Sorry, Van Trien, your constitution has been incompatible with almonds since childhood. If you eat it by mistake, you might lose a bit of strength, and there are almonds in this porridge." Truk Van Trien was just about to eat, and indeed he was not on guard. She took a bite and happily said, "Just now master was joking. Why is this porridge clearly sweet?" But before she could finish her sentence, his face turned pale and the bowl of porridge fell to the ground. Poor Truk Van Trien clenched his fists, unable to finish the sentence. "The person in this porridge can no longer bear it," and fell over. Truk Van Trien lay unconscious on her. Tu Nin frowned, her face a bit worried. She muttered to him, "I'm sorry," then quickly reached out to absorb some of his spiritual energy. She hurriedly used sound transmission to call for help. A piece of paper flew to Nin Tam. "This area is very vast," and a confused disciple asked, "Master Law, the mental method you just mentioned, I don't quite understand." Next to him was a scholar-like guy. He replied, "If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to say it. I'll explain it clearly once more." The boy shyly said, "It's that..." This person is actually Tu Nin's two senior brothers. Levantu suddenly stopped, saying, "Wait a moment." Three heads turned their gaze to the ground and discovered a small piece of paper underfoot. "What is this?" He curiously picked it up to read. Inside appeared the words, "Go to Nin Tam Pavilion to save junior sister Tu Nin." Lavantu frowned in surprise. "Junior sister Nin is in danger." He hurriedly left, and before going, he did not forget to instruct his disciples. "I have urgent matters that require me to go to Nin Tam Pavilion. You all go back first. Later, I will find time to answer your questions." They obediently responded, "Yes." "Yes, Master La, please go ahead with your work." The two began to discuss why Master La still had to go to Nin Tam Pavilion. "That is the den of the demon Dao." The person next to him, indifferent, replied, "Just ignore it. As long as that lustful demoness doesn't scream at us, it's fine." At this moment, Truk Van Trien gradually woke up, and Tu Nin looked at him in panic. His hand pressed against the edge of the bed, leaning close to her face, and asked, "Master, what have you done?" She broke out in a sweat. He woke up so quickly. "It's been a few years since we last met, and your cultivation has progressed this much. Luckily, my movements were quick." Suddenly, there was a sound of a bell outside. He thought in confusion, "It's already the hour of Hai who had come to Nin Tam Pavilion at this late hour." Truk Van Trien quickly stepped outside. He clasped his hands together and respectfully bowed. Two senior uncles, he went straight to the main issue and asked, "Where is junior sister Nin? I'm looking for her for a reason." He lied in response. "Master has secluded himself again. What do the two senior uncles need? If it's not too much trouble, just tell me, and when Master comes out, I'll relay the message right away." He replied slowly, "Is that so?" He calmly suggested, "Then I'll personally go outside the secluded chamber and use my spiritual power to relay the information to her." Truk Van Trien looked confused but maintained a neutral expression and agreed. Okay. He enthusiastically guided, inviting the two senior uncles to go this way. He followed behind La Van Tu, feeling anxious inside. Is he suspicious now? Truk Van Trien still appeared calm, reassuring himself. But it's okay, that secret chamber has been sealed with a spell by me for a long time. Perhaps he won't notice. A moment later, La Van Tu walked around the Heart Spirit Pavilion but found nothing at all. He slowly descended each step, pondering. Nothing strange, but there is a distress letter. The calmer the waves, the clearer it indicates that there is a problem. This must be related to Truk Van Trien. While he was still confused, a voice suddenly called from behind, two senior uncles, startling him. Truk Van Trien approached and asked, Have you sent the information yet? He smiled and replied, Yes, it's done. He deliberately tried to shoo him away. That's good. It's late at night, senior uncle should hurry back and rest. He quickly stopped her, pausing, saying, You don't need to see me off anymore. Just stay in Ningxin, you all take care of Master well. He stroked his chin, replying, That's only natural. After La Van Tu left, he lowered his head, praising Master for having real skill. He hurriedly pushed the door open, locking Xiao Ning inside, carefully closing the door, and sarcastically said, I didn't expect Master to be locked up yet still able to provoke other men. She was astonished. What do you mean? He grabbed her arm, questioning, Did you trick me into eating almonds to send a message to La Van Tu? Is it really true that you are looking forward to returning to his side that much? Xiao Ning felt uncomfortable, pulling her hand back, saying, Stop saying those strange things. Even without senior brother, do you really think you can lock me up forever? She replied, confused. But it seems that during the 5 years I was in seclusion, your strength has indeed increased a lot. Yet the two senior brothers didn't detect me here. His words left him stunned for a moment. 5 years? She seriously reminded him. But you probably know if the news has been sent out, there will be loopholes. I advise you to take the initiative. It's better if I go out first. At this time, Truk Van Trien became concerned about the timeline. She clearly stated that Master had come out of seclusion 3 years ago. Looking at Master, who was struggling from beginning to end, he felt a bit suspicious. Could it be that he really is not lying to deceive me? It's only because of the loss of trust from Master. You never believed in me before, right? I will take you to a place. Truk Van Trien said as he reached into the other sleeve, pulled out a vial of medicine, quickly took out a small black pill and put it into Tu Nin's mouth before she could react, leaving her wide-eyed as he argued. To prevent you from disobeying, I had to make my master take a few more pills of bone-softening powder. Master, don't be angry. Not stopping there to ensure it, he continued to chant a spell on Tu Nin, then wrapped his arm around her shoulder and carried her in a daze a little further to that place. Master will hear many interesting stories here at the Lamb Tomb. La Van Tu Thin Thang stepped forward respectfully, clasped his hands, and greeted the senior disciple, the sect leader. The person lazily reclining on the dragon bed is Tu Nin's senior brother, the sect leader Zhao Zihe. He asked in annoyance, It's so late, why are you still bothering me? Is there something going on? He fell silent for a moment, thinking that the sect leader and junior sister had never gotten along. If I directly invite him to save someone, he definitely won't agree. After thinking carefully, he raised his face respectfully and replied, I heard that junior sister Tu Nin suddenly went into seclusion and has symptoms of being possessed, so I came here to ask for senior brother's help. Because he thought that lying about junior sister being possessed would surely give the senior brother the opportunity to take many people to pressure her. However, he didn't seem to care much, yawning and saying, Being possessed is just being possessed. She can overcome it herself. I'm very sleepy, not going anywhere. Hearing this, he felt disheartened, realizing that he had overestimated him, so he had to change his approach. But recently, other sects have been talking about our sect's weaknesses. What if someone takes this opportunity to harm junior sister? Fortunately, this time he hit on the issue that worried him. He then suddenly realized, take advantage. Why didn't I think of that? He immediately instructed, Go call a few more disciples to go with us to Nintam Pavilion to help junior sister. Just waiting for this, he immediately replied, Yes. He breathed a sigh of relief, finally understanding. Meanwhile, in a small corner of the flower garden, Truk Van and Xiao Ning were hiding in a nearby bush. It definitely isn't anything good. She asked in confusion, "Why did you bring me here?" Obviously to ask, which is thanks to the spiritual connection that our people refer to as the family signal through eye contact. He explained, "Every day the master cultivates and is probably unaware of how much the disciples in the sect enjoy this Toa Luang Jin. When night falls, the disciples often gather here to discuss certain matters in secret." She still didn't understand his intention, so how does it relate to me? Meanwhile, over there, the second matter had already begun. "You tell me tonight the master hurried to Nintam Pavilion. What could it be about?" One person interjected. "In my opinion, perhaps he has been bewitched by that lustful female ghost." Hearing this, she was deeply skeptical, wondering, "Besides me, is there any other woman in Nintam Pavilion?" That person was savoring the delicious smell while feeling down, saying, "Well, the master really likes to take care of others like that. And he's also a childhood friend. It's easy to be enchanted." She empathized and thought, "Poor Master Law." A third person joined in the conversation. "Just consider that Master Law has sacrificed for us. Without him, we would have to escape from the seductive grasp of the lustful demoness, Xiao Ning." Now she realized that the main character in today's gossip was herself. What? The lustful demoness is actually me. Observing her reaction as expected, he thought. Looking at the master's reaction, it seems she really has no impression of these matters. His gaze became cunning, calculating. If that's the case, then it's truly a great opportunity. He softened his voice to start a conversation. "Master, do you know why I dared to confine you?" Meanwhile, his restless hand wrapped around her shoulder, he made a distinction between big and small, and asked himself, "Actually, before Master and I were in love, and you agreed to marry me, but then you broke my heart to flirt with someone else." For a moment, she was stunned by his shocking words, not paying attention to his overstepping behavior. "In love agreed to marry?" Xiao Ning wondered. After finishing his tale, he indignantly said, "Tell me, how can I possibly suppress this anger?" Enchanted by his exceptional acting skills, she was swept away by the plot, not knowing what was right or wrong. Could it be that I really let him down? Seeing her vague expression, he gleefully thought, "The master is panicking. It seems she really has lost her memory. Then if I deceive you, I will take responsibility." Suddenly, a voice rang out. Both disciples turned their heads in surprise and paid attention to the situation over there. He wondered, who is that? It's Lao Wen too. By order, come to inform that the sect leader has commanded to immediately go to Ningxin Pavilion to assist junior sister Xiao Ning in her emergence. She was surprised, exclaimed, "Senior brother." Similarly, the other disciples were all shocked. But was it because of her? Save the lustful demoness, he was anxious. Why is La still standing there in a daze? "Hurry, come with me." The disciples were scared, Pale quickly responding, "Oh yes, yes." Hearing this, she couldn't help but wonder, how will the two senior brothers convince that stubborn guy to save me? Not only she, but he was also very surprised. I think this Lao Wen too is indeed somewhat patient, yet he could convince that stubborn guy. I must quickly take the master back to re-establish the barrier. So he immediately picked her up. Meanwhile, she carefully thought, the current situation is unclear, so I can't let the stubborn guy and the two senior brothers catch me off guard. Remove the spell. Give it to me. I want to explain again. Unable to speak, she instinctively struggled thinking of him this way, but he bore animosity. Misunderstanding that the master wanted to break free from the spell to seek help, he hurriedly covered her mouth. Lao Wen too noticed the noise. He carefully approached the small bush and called out, "Who is hiding there?" Truk Van Trin was alert, hiding the dark and silent night, while over there was just a piece of tranquility. However, Lao Wen too still had doubts, so he turned around and told his disciples, "I'll go over there to check you. I'll go find the sect leader and gather first." The disciples, hearing him say that, were not at ease and suggested, "La Master, we should go with you." In the grass over here, Truk Van Trin covered her mouth tightly, listening cautiously to the situation. Suddenly, he bit his lip tightly and abruptly turned his head. Xiao Ning was momentarily taken aback. The close distance made her blush. She stared wide-eyed, startled by his bold action. He dared to get close to her tender white neck and even overstepped, opening his mouth to bite. She should have felt ashamed or angry, but her strange train of thought at that moment was still occupied with this sentiment. Am I crazy? What if I'm seen? Meanwhile, outside, a disciple threatened, "Who is hiding over there? Hurry out, don't let Le Master come in personally." She was increasingly desperate. This is bad. He's really come over. How will I have a place in the sect later? She hurriedly raised her hand to push against his chest, her resistance minimal, implying that it was enough, and it couldn't go further. Satisfied with this small gain, he smiled, snapped his fingers, and immediately a bird appeared, spreading its wings and flying away. Each move was clearly influenced by this disturbance. The disciples breathed a sigh of relief, realizing it was just an agitated bird, nothing more. He still looked back toward that place, not yet convinced, trying to part the grass, doubting whether it was really just a bird. He heightened his vigilance, staring intently ahead. Fortunately, at that moment, there was a loud shout calling, "La Ventu, what are you doing? Quickly take them to Nintam Pavilion." Triotuhi shouted impatiently with no other option. He quickly replied, "Yes," and then hurriedly set aside his suspicion and ran off with the disciples. Hurry up, don't dawdle." At this time, Truk van Trien was holding her waist with one hand while the other was still tightly covering her mouth. He warned that if the master still wanted to call for help, she would have to pay the price as before. At that moment, she understood what was happening. It turned out to be him. Thinking that she wanted to call for help, she raised her hand to point at her mouth. Understanding his meaning, she immediately lifted the ban on speech. Once Xiao Ning was free to speak, she said, "I don't want to call for help. If I wronged you before, I will be fair and investigate this time." Of course, that was just one of the reasons. She quietly added the main reason in her heart was to take the opportunity to escape from the secret chamber, planning to go through him. Lowering her eyes to look through, she assessed the truth. Her intention was to help herself escape blame, but could she still trust the words of the master? Over there, everyone was rushing to Nintam Pavilion. He spoke justly as planned. They had all gone into the closed room to rescue Ninsu Moi, who was possessed. Then La Ventu led the troops to respond, "Yes," causing a commotion in the hall. Meanwhile, he had carried her back to his private room. Xiao Ning anxiously said that the straw bag belonged to an old person. "Today, if you don't see me, I'm afraid you won't be able to settle down." "Give me the antidote," she suggested. Finally, when she was brought to the bedside, she added, "Trust me." He paused for a moment, staring at her. Truk van Trien squinted, wondering, should I trust her? Clearly from her actual actions, like her lowering her voice, playing with my feelings, tricking me into eating almonds to escape, and even wanting to deny my feelings for her as love, it made it hard for him to truly trust her unconditionally. Nevertheless, in front of her, he always felt at a disadvantage. He said, "Master, I really shouldn't trust you," while his hand went into his pocket, taking out the antidote and pouring out a pill. He spoke affectionately, but in his heart I wanted to gamble on another round. He put the pill in his mouth and, to her astonishment, performed a passionate tongue swap. He happened to kiss her for a long time, thinking that this time Master would stand by my side. The flowers outside also began to bloom, as if proving his feelings. Truk van Trien closed his eyes, enjoying. Xiao Ning stared wide-eyed in confusion, not daring to move La Ventu behind him. Trio Too High quickly turned around, instructing the disciples to quickly close the front door. Hurry. Trio Too High was in front, suddenly squinting when he heard a faint shout, "Get out of the way." Truk van Trien stood in front, delicately asking, in the middle of the night with heavy bones, why didn't the sect master call out even once? His eyes were gentle, his long hands covering his mouth as he asked, "Then why suddenly bring so many people to Nintam Kash like this?" Trio Tuhi led the disciples behind, waved his hand, frowning. His mouth twisted as he shouted, "Does the sect master still need to explain to you?" "Get out of the way." Truk van Trien observed, reasoning that the master needed time to recover his spiritual power. He had to buy some time. He respectfully clasped his hands, bowed his head to refuse. "Sorry, master, being ordered to guard here, I find it hard to listen to the sect master." With a face twisted like a monkey's butt, he shouted loudly, rudely saying, "You dare to listen to her instead of me." Saying that, he turned to look at the disciples, who were staring in shock, and ordered, "Where are you? Hurry and catch them. Take them away." La Ventu looked back at the trembling disciples, behind tears streaming down, crying, to explain, "Sect master, we can't fight him." Hearing this, he frowned, dark-faced, turning to glare at them. Seeing him angry, they gathered their courage, suppressing their fear, and all charged forward, shouting, I, I, I will make a move right now. Truk Van Trin looked at them, gathering spiritual power in his hand, but suddenly hesitated, thinking, this bunch is not my match, but if I make a move, how can I not give the master a chance to save me? The corners of his mouth suddenly curled up. He smiled happily in satisfaction. The bright red flame on his hand gradually accumulated, surrounding him with a stream of purple light enveloping the space. He resolutely thought, if I'm going to gamble, I might as well gamble big. So he closed his eyes slowly, sensing everything. Suddenly, a powerful force blasted 3 of Trio Tu He's disciples out. A powerful voice echoed, "Who dares to touch him?" A pair of slender legs in intricately embroidered shoes stepped out from the threshold of the room. Xiao Ning walked out confidently with a hint of majestic demeanor, her gaze resolute and cold-looking straight ahead. Trio Tu Hai frowned more than a monkey's butt and silently wondered, has Xiao Ning not gone mad yet? Lavan Tu, seeing her from behind, felt joy and thought, my junior sister is fine. Her voice was cold as she asked, Trio Tu Hai, what does this mean? She stood seriously in front of Truk Van Trin, protecting him from behind. Her sharp gaze questioned the person in front. While I was in seclusion, you took the opportunity to bully my disciple. Truk Van Trin stood behind her, happily thinking, it seems I was completely right. He looked at her slender back and thought with satisfaction, feeling protected by the master is not bad. Trio Tu Hai, hearing her directly call her name, angrily shouted back, how dare you call my name directly? She heard him shout and calmly replied, what if I call your name? Do you want to take action against me? Trio Tu Hai furious yelled, you Lavan Tu. Looking at the situation before him, Lavan Tu thought that the sect master couldn't deal with Nin Jr.'s sister and was giving him a way out. Lavan Tu stepped forward, standing in front of Trio Tu Hai to mediate. Nin Jr.'s sister misunderstood. My sect master and I came here to help you, not to cause trouble. He said, did you not encounter a difficult problem? I am very worried. As he reached out to take her hand, Truk Van Trin beside him looked at their hands and thought, wanting to hold his master's hand. Yes. Truk Van Trin quietly used his hand to channel spiritual power towards Xiao Ning, then subtly withdrew his hand and calmly warned, I'm fine, no need to save me. Thank you both for your concern. Truk Van Trin saw this and was satisfied with all his actions, thinking his master avoided him. Lavan Tu still did not give up, reaching out towards Xiao Ning and asking, Nin Jr. sister, why do you call me 2 senior brothers? Did you not always call me by my name? Xiao Ning withdrew her hand and gently advised, those things are misunderstandings. Let me investigate a bit and I will clarify and explain to you. Lavan Tu still did not back down and retorted, But immediately Trio Tu Hai from behind angrily interrupted him. Enough. This is ridiculous. He grimaced behind, pointing at Lavan Tu and scolding, Lavan Tu, you better give me an explanation this time. Then he frowned angrily and turned to leave. Yes, Lavan Tu stood between the two sides in a dilemma, trying to call sect master senior brother. He looked at the crowd and the angry Zhao Zishi left. He could only gently turn back to Xiao Ning and advise, Nin Jr. sister, if you have any difficulties, just tell me. She saw a hint of reluctance in his eyes and softly replied, Xiao Ning and Truk Van Trin quietly stood behind, watching Lavan Tu's lonely figure before leaving. Truk Van Trin gently pulled Xiao Ning's hand, causing her to startle. He took the opportunity to hold her hand tightly and seriously reminded her, the 2 masters have always pretended to be good people with their words. Master, don't let him deceive you. Xiao Ning suddenly yanked her hand away from his, rubbed her wrist gently, and explained, I have nothing to do with him. As for you, her eyes sparkled as she looked at him, hesitated, and said, if I can prove that we were indeed together, then I will take responsibility. He looked at her like this, feeling powerless and speechless, and smiled in surprise in his heart. Oh. Truk Van Trin looked at her with gentle eyes and nodded in agreement. All right, tomorrow I will show it to Master. The next day, Xiao Ning woke up still in a daze, lying quietly in bed. Truth Van Trin quietly stood beside waiting. Her hair was spread out on the bed and her eyes slowly opened. Seeing her open her eyes, he leaned in to ask, "Master, are you awake?" As soon as his voice rang out, she jumped, looked at the man in front of her, froze, climbed up, and asked, "Didn't you leave last night? Why are you here?" Truk Van Trien calmly replied, "I really wanted to show Master the evidence, but I wanted you to have a good sleep." He rested his chin on his hand, observing her intently, and continued, "So after returning, I hesitated and couldn't fall asleep. In the end, I could only come here very early to wait for Master to wake up." His eyes were full of scheming and a bit of gentle comfort. "Master, don't worry, I'm just sitting here watching you not doing anything." After regaining her senses, she coughed lightly, and with a thoughtful gaze asked, "So where is my evidence?" His figure sat there leisurely, reminding her clearly, "If I have sown the ancient wisdom into you, perhaps Master also understands the connection to a beautiful little butterfly." From the main body to the beast man, his voice continued to echo. "The mother caterpillar of this poison has a very important characteristic." He recalled some unsightly images and continued, "If both sides of the poison are in harmony and move toward each other, the mother caterpillar will grow wings." Truk Van Trien sat in a corner of the bed. Xiao Ning reached out, wanting to hold her hand, and gave a suggestion. "So, Master wants evidence that you brought the mother caterpillar out from within your body to see, and you'll know right away." Hearing this, she pondered for a moment. "What it says is indeed something I have read in books." She used her spiritual power. A red light flared up around her hand, thinking about what to do. Truk Van Trien smiled smugly, and a beautifully dark-colored monkey appeared on her wrist. He stared at her focused expression with satisfaction, thinking, "So the Master doesn't know that I have drunk my blood, and the mother worm has grown wings because of this." On the small bed, Tiu Nin sat silently looking at the butterfly on her wrist, her eyes wide in disbelief, wondering, has it really grown wings? Truk Van Trien took the opportunity to move closer to her while she was still flustered and asked earnestly, "Now the Master has to believe that we were together, right?" He propped himself up, looking at her gracefully, and said, "So how does the Master intend to take responsibility for me? For example, like the people down the mountain." His gaze was sharp, yet profound, beautiful, as he continued to press her, "Have a name for the child in the room." Truk Van Trien's eyes sparkled with anticipation as she awaited Tiu Nin's response. She looked at his helpless demeanor and thought, although I don't know what happened during my amnesia, seeing this gentle man who knows how to care and speak in front of me, I pondered, if Van Trien has such a mad and stubborn personality, if I don't agree, he may not accept our master-disciple bond anymore. Remembering the effort and her appearance of waking up early and sleeping late training him, she continued to think, I have devoted 11 years to nurturing him for 11 years. If I turn my back today just because of this, not only will years of affection vanish, but the grand plan of the sect will also be in vain. Her gaze fell on an uncertain point, thinking that now I still cannot lose Van Trien. Immediately, her expression became serious, her voice firm as she said, "Today I will go to the Great Hall to urgently request the elders to allow me to marry this child." Seeing her like this, he was overjoyed internally, asking, "Has she agreed?" Then he joyfully jumped on her, saying, "Master." He hugged her tightly, sweetly, saying, "Do you know how long I have waited for you to say this?" She frowned, trying to push him away, warning, "We are still master and disciple, do not be disrespectful." He touched his own flushed face softly, saying, "No." Immediately, Tu Nin began to concentrate spiritual energy in her hand, gathering 23% energy, startling him. His mind was in a tangle, suddenly feeling a bit regretful for having removed the chains from the master so soon. In the main hall of the sect from below, Tu Nin and Truk Van Trien looked up at the master and the elders sitting at the table. Trio Tu He sat high above, looking down with a grimacing face bearing the trademark monkey butt, incredulously asked, "What did you say?" You want to marry Truk Van Trien." The three grand elders frowned tightly, showing their displeasure. Truk Van Trien obediently stood behind Tu Nin. She stood in front, clasped her hands in salute, but her face was imposing. Looking up, she firmly replied, "Yes, I earnestly ask the three elders and the master to grant us this." his face furrowed even more, scolding. At this point, you call me sect leader. The master demands to marry the disciple openly and above board. This truly is a tremendous humiliation for our sect. Lavan, too, in desperation, tried to persuade her master junior sister. Don't joke around anymore. Quickly explained to the senior brother, the sect leader. Xiao Zihi's gaze became even colder and more tyrannical. Gritting his teeth, he said, All right, I will grant the two of you. He smirked as if he thought his proposal was great and declared loudly, but the premise was that Xiao Ning and Truk Van Trien had to be expelled from the Jiam Thuong sect. The Grand Elder, 2 elders, and 3 elders successively voiced their agreement. I agree. This matter concerns the reputation of the sect. Logically, it should be so. Before expelling Xiao Ning and Truk Van Trien from the sect, there should still be a punishment. Truk Van Trien carefully observed every action of Xiao Zihi and thought, These old men are more ruthless than I imagined. The master always valued the sect, asking her to choose between the sect and marriage. It seems Xiao Ning still calmly clasped her hands, half respectfully, without objection, saying, Just expel me and Truk Van Trien from the sect. But suddenly her gaze became sharp and her voice grew a bit stronger, asking, But has the sect leader thought through how to handle the demonic creatures when going down the mountain? Hearing her words, the entire hall fell into silence. A loud sigh was heard and a pair of feet lightly moved down. Alavan, too, stepped forward respectfully, bowing to the sect leader and the 3 elders. Remembering the handover of the sect's arrangements, he discovered that the 3 elders of the Jiam Thuong sect were responsible for managing the Forbidden City behind the mountain and could not leave the sect at will. The sect leader is useless, no expectations can be held. The 2 senior brothers are moderately capable. Xiao Ning and Truk Van Trien are the pillars of the sect. Lavan, too, knew how to maneuver and bowed his head to speak as if giving both sides a way out. Report recently, the demonic creatures harming civilians have been increasing. If our Jiam Thuong sect loses Nin Jr. sister and Truk Van Trien, his face was filled with worry, loudly reminding, The strength to eliminate demons will be greatly reduced, harming the sect's reputation. The 3 grand elders now seem to stand before a scale, each side holding difficult choices, needing Xiao Ning and Truk Van Trien to help the sect eliminate the demonic creatures, while the master-disciple marriage being unfavorable outside. The grand elder hesitated a bit, mumbling about this matter. Truk Van Trien stood to the side, not very surprised, lamenting, Indeed, the master. Both options are desirable. Truk Van Trien looked up happily, thinking it was now their turn to choose the 3 elders. Hearing this, they gathered to discuss. The Grand Elder was the first to speak. To this day, the evil demons are rampant, and many major sects are taking the opportunity to establish their might. If at this moment the Jiam Thuong sect loses these 2 people. The 2 elders pondered for a moment, continuing. I'm afraid the recruitment of disciples next year will also be affected. At that time, the sect will become... The 3 elders also spoke up. But a master-disciple marriage like this, if it spreads outside, will... Below, Xiao Ning had lost patience and asked, Have the 2 elders come to a conclusion yet? The 3 elders listened to her reminder we're discussing, suddenly fell silent and hesitated, wanting to speak again. The 2 elders finally let out a long sigh, compromising. All right, since it's about demon subjugation, we might as well use a compromise method temporarily, not expelling you from the sect. But during the time in the sect, he narrowed his eyes, warning the 2 that they were only allowed to secretly betroth, not to marry. Xiao Ning heard him say, her mouth slightly curled in disdain. She contentedly looked at the useless ones on the high platform and thought leisurely, I knew you wouldn't easily give up on using us. However, this is the outcome I wanted. If we can secretly betroth, then of course we can continue to stay in the sect, plotting long-term schemes. Suddenly, she hesitated a bit, turning to look at Zhu Yun Cheng, who had been quietly pondering all this time. It's just that I don't know if Zhu Yun Cheng can accept this compromise. If he doesn't agree, then I still have other ways. Zhu Yun Cheng was now also lost in his thoughts, completely unaware of everything around him, including the fact that she was looking at him. He was thinking, the master takes the sect and demon subjugation very seriously. If I force him to make a choice, I'm afraid all the effort will go to waste. After all, if it weren't for the urgent situation, I would still hope the master would willingly accept a little. After a moment of silence, as if lost in thought, Zhu Yun Cheng finally lowered his head slightly and said, The sect master and the three elders have considered it thoroughly. Zhu Yun Cheng expressed gratitude. Seeing his expression, Xiao Ning unexpectedly thought he agreed. Xiao Ning looked at her disciple pitifully understanding and smiled sadly. Let him think about it. It turns out he still has some attachment to this teacher-disciple relationship, not wanting to put too much pressure on me. When they reached the entrance of the main hall, Xiao Ning and Zhu Yun Cheng casually walked into the room. She gently reminded him, if the elder has said this, surely in the near future they will arrange quite a few demon subjugation tasks for us, so prepare well. Hearing her instructions, he obediently replied, yes. As soon as the door closed, his hand had already grabbed hers. Right in the misty haze, he pushed her against the wall with force. The sudden turn of events left her unable to react in time. His face moved closer to hers. Xiao Ning immediately reacted, putting her hand over Zhu Yun Cheng's mouth. She looked at the man in front of her and bluntly refused. No. Seeing her reaction stopping him, Zhu Yun Cheng said a bit unhappily, it's just a little kiss the elders have agreed, now we can do it openly. She still stubbornly declined. That was still not acceptable. Finally, he obediently stopped asking to kiss her instead, taking her hand and exploring it, asking, so about this happy event, can the master drink a little celebratory wine with me? Stammering from the alcohol, she ultimately straightforwardly declined, not even looking at the 2 glasses of wine on the table. Truk Van Trin seduced, it's flower wine, the master loves it the most. This tactic was very effective. She had drooled at the name flower wine. Remembering her drunken state, not knowing day from night while drinking, she thought aimlessly, having been in seclusion for so long, she had long wanted to drink once. But Van Trin's alcohol tolerance was very poor. Drinking with him was still fine. Finally, she spoke up in agreement. Okay, bring the wine. On the dining table, a pair of slender, beautiful hands were leisurely pouring a glass of wine. After a while, Tu Nin helplessly looked at Truk Van Trin slumped over the table, sighing, you got drunk after just 1 glass. This alcohol tolerance is truly nothing to mention. Tu Nin naturally did not waste. She raised the wine jug and said, then for the remaining wine, I won't be polite anymore. Outside, the night sky had clearly risen with the crescent moon silently hanging there for who knows how long. Tu Nin's eyes were hazy as she let out a sound. She looked up. Truk Van Trin had sobered up, looking dazed, and said, it seems like I drank a bit too much. Truk Van Trin looked at the scene before her with satisfaction, lowered her head to call the master, watching her drunken state, not recognizing anyone struggling with Tu Nin. Truk Van Trin sighed softly. Disciple, wait until you get drunk, waiting until it's almost time to sleep. Then he pulled her into his embrace, holding her and saying, they say alcohol brings out the truth. Disciple has something to ask the master. He relaxed as she obediently sat on his lap and hugged him tightly, his hand gently caressing her flushed face, inquiring, this time, how much of your agreement to marry me is out of responsibility, and how much is sincere? Seeing her not respond, he became a bit unhappy, growling, master speak. He gently stroked the lovely face in front of him, firmly stating, as long as you say there's even a part of liking, I will feel reassured. Xiao Ning stammered for a long time before managing to say, right after which she began to vomit all over Zhuo Fencheng. After vomiting, she finally reacted, panicking and saying, I vomited on you. He helplessly covered his face, patting her shoulder to comfort her. It's okay, I'll wait a moment. She still innocently reached out her hand, suggesting, let me help you clean it up. But before her hands could touch him, he firmly held them back, stopping her. The master looked at the girl, still dazedly sitting on his lap, sincerely reminding her, don't move around. It's not easy for me to decide to hold off until I'm married to you. She was still a bit confused, her brain seemingly not functioning well, and asked back, what are you saying? I don't understand. To coax her to be obedient, he continued, you lie down, close your eyes and sleep. I will slowly explain to you tomorrow at the villa of master and apprentice Xiao Ning. She was tired, dazed, and slightly opened her eyes. Her eyes looked towards the tea table where the two of them had drunk wine yesterday, then turned to look at the man lying beside her, panicking and asking, why are you sleeping here? Zhuo Fencheng was still intently resting his eyes, answering, it was the master himself who pulled your waist, hugged you tightly, and told me the reason why I had to lie on the bed. And she, feeling shy and modest, sat up and said, I'm sorry I drank too much yesterday. Zhuo Fencheng, on the other hand, continued to be nonchalant, replying, It's fine, in fact, I was hoping for this opportunity. Suddenly, from outside the hall, the panicked voice of Van Tu called, Junior Sister Ning. Hearing his voice, she quickly adjusted her clothes and left. Before leaving, she didn't forget to remind, Fencheng, you stay here and don't go out while I check things. She opened the hall door coldly, looking at the guest who had come to disturb her early in the morning, asking, Two senior brothers, why did you hurry to come here so early? Seeing the person still standing in front, she asked, Is there something urgent? Levantu hesitated for a moment before finally having the courage to say, Senior brother, junior sisters, I thought about it all night. I want to speak. He was serious, pointing at his chest, mustering all his courage, and said loudly, I sincerely admire junior sister, and I hope you can give me a chance. Xiao Ning still stood at the door, not intending to let Levantu step into the room to drink tea and talk. She clearly stated, Two senior brothers, we are fellow disciples. This matter was previously due to my memory loss and cannot be considered real. However, if you are stubbornly standing at the door of a young woman to express your feelings like this, how could it be easy to give up just because of one rejection? Levantu straightforwardly declared, I know junior sister will say that, but I will not give up. The two senior uncles are too much relying on their status. He stared wide-eyed at the appearance of that person. Truk von Trien leisurely stepped out, tying her waist while standing next to her, coldly declaring her claim, My master and I have a betrothal, and yet you two seniors come running to the door. Are you saying that my existence is irrelevant? Seeing his disheveled and unkempt appearance in the early morning left him stunned. Why are you in the junior sister's room so early in the morning? Could it be that last night you reached out to hug her waist to assert your claim? He wasn't wrong. It was exactly what the seniors thought. Although knowing the story wasn't as he said, it was just right to use Von Trien to push back the senior brother. Thinking that way, she remained silent, tacitly acknowledging it. After a few seconds of brief silence, he suddenly calmed down, smiled lightly, and casually said, I don't mind. Before the two of you get married, I absolutely will not give up. Seeing him so optimistic in a desperate situation, she couldn't bear to speak harshly. Wondering why I didn't realize earlier that the senior brother was so affectionate towards me, Truk von Trien provocatively smiled. All right, if you're so confident, I'll wait and see. He replied, No rush, the winning day is still far away. Watching his figure leave, he gloomily thought, Oh, the winning day is still far away, huh? His gaze turned sinister, calculating, If I cripple you, let's see if you still have that winning day ahead of you. At that moment, she finished what she was doing, brushed off her clothes, pushed his hand aside, and scolded. Nothing happened between us last night. From now on, don't speak so recklessly, understood, he said sulkily. My master just used me to make the senior brother lose his heart, and now he's immediately turning against me. She became furious, scolding, Nonsense, I did not use you. He always complied with her. Yes, yes, yes. Whatever my master says is exactly that. As soon as he stepped out of the courtyard, he immediately removed his affectionate mask. La Vun Tu sarcastically remarked, Ridiculous. He doesn't think I'm like him, solely devoted to that daughter of the romantic world. Does he? The very matter that Trio Tu He is mocking the doves while using it as an excuse to manipulate some people with improper relationships. Quickly go down the mountain to help the sect exorcise demons and earn money. Don't stay up here making a nuisance. And Truk von Trien was no stranger to his demeanor, thinking to herself, As expected, he wants to take the opportunity to exploit us. At this time, La Vun Tu respectfully asked the senior sect leader, I am willing to go with Nin junior sister. He seemed indifferent, waving his hand, saying, It's up to you. Tratchi spoke up to refuse. I don't agree. After all, he and Truk von Trien are like oil and water. I can't bring more trouble to myself. Seeing her react so strongly, he wanted to provoke even more. Who doesn't agree anymore? The more you disagree, the more I want him to go. She was angry but could do nothing. Trio Tu He gently held her hand. Truk von Trien whispered, Master, angering the sect leader will delay the time. She was angry but couldn't do anything. Trio Tu He gently held her hand and Truk von whispered, Master, angering the sect leader will delay our time. Considering your respect for the master, I will live peacefully with the two uncles. She innocently asked. Really? Of course. He confidently affirmed while inside he had dark thoughts. If he doesn't come down the mountain, then it wouldn't be good for me to act within the sect. So the three of them mounted their horses and carried out their mission. Along the way, Laventu asked with concern, Junior sister, are you tired? Drink some water. Then he immediately interrupted. What do you understand? Master likes alcohol. Caught in the middle, Xiao Ning felt very awkward. She stammered, I drink alcohol, thank you. He then looked at his brother smugly, just like a child showing off a fruit. In addition, there were many similar debates, like in the whole dish of tung chao meat-filled pastry points of tofu, or at the rest stops. Of course, when it came to setting up the camp outside, the victory was undoubtedly his. The innkeeper lost customers, but still had to smile. Dear guest, please come again next time young master is truly handsome. He was so pleased that he mocked even the fact that master didn't know what he liked, but still wanted to compete with me. He choked on a lump of anger in his throat and didn't know what to do. To avoid the buzzing in her ears, she interjected, All right, stop making noise, it's dark now. Let's split up and set up camp. Laventu then suggested, Junior sister, shall I help you set up the tent? I have something important to discuss with you. While she was still wondering what it was, he spoke up, I am the fiancé of the master uncle. Is there something important that cannot be said in front of me? Is there something difficult to say? She then explained that seeing them whispering, he looked visibly uncomfortable but couldn't do anything. Afterwards, Truk Van thought to herself that it seemed like she would have to remind them tonight. Xiao Ning pointed ahead and gently said, You go pick up some wood, conveniently explaining that matter clearly. Van Tu agreed, of course. Truk Van quietly watched the two happily chatting, her cold gaze observing him, curling her lips into a cold smile. Van Trien silently drew the sword from behind her back. The sky was now pitch black. Xiao Ning and Laventu each held a pile of small firewood in their hands. He listened, not knowing what to say. Xiao Ning gently looked at him and suggested, Thank you very much. At that time, the two senior brothers assisted with this matter, hoping it won't be mentioned again in the future. In response to her words, Van Tu stammered, Misunderstanding. But before he finished, a loud scream from behind startled both of them. Xiao Ning looked around, searching. She hurriedly ran towards the source of the scream, worried. Is Van Trien in danger? Despite Van Tu calling from behind. Wait for the two junior sisters, I haven't finished speaking yet. Despite the pitch darkness, Xiao Ning still ran desperately forward, searching for the sound which might have come from somewhere nearby. Why can't I see any signs? Her gaze suddenly stopped in front of her, Truk Van Trien holding tightly onto his injured arm, surrounded by countless corpses. His face was covered in wounds with a pitiful look in his eyes, as if pleading for help, which made Xiao Ning feel heartbroken, exclaiming, Van Trien. She looked him over from head to toe, hurriedly grasped his hand, worriedly asking, What exactly happened? Where were you injured? Is it serious? Van Trien explained, It was a sneak attack by a ghost. I could have handled it. But he turned his face away, looking embarrassed and hurt as he said, My master and the two senior uncles were alone together, which made me jealous and distracted. Hearing Truk Van Trien say that Xiao Ning's eyes showed some guilt, feeling at a loss for words, she gently helped Van Trien sit down and kindly said, Sit down. I'll help you bandage your wound. He nodded politely and replied, Thank you, master. Xiao Ning carefully bandaged his wound, gently reminding him, In the future, during critical moments, you must not get distracted. Van Trien innocently asked, Master, are you concerned about me? Truk Van Trien was as happy as a blooming flower, leaning close to her and whining, Master is so good. This made her flustered, quickly pushing him away. Hey, you're getting too close. Looking up at the tree canopy, she saw a flock of birds fluttering away, which made her more alert. She pointed ahead and turned back to remind, Something is not right over there. Let me go check. Don't run around. He quickly grabbed Xiao Ning's hand, whining, Master, it's just some birds. Xiao Ning forcefully shook his hand off, firmly saying, No, I can't be at ease. Van Trien watched Xiao Ning feeling worried in his heart. These brainless undead are indeed useless, and they even alarmed my master. I have to go with you to see what's going on. In the darkness, the undead with glowing red eyes were baring their sharp claws. Lavantu was sitting on the ground, his face full of wounds, looking frightened at the undead. "Don't come over here." Xiao Ning raised her hand to chant a spell. A brilliant golden light shone from her hand. She unleashed a dazzling golden aura, carrying powerful lightning bolts that drove the undead away. After driving the undead away, Xiao Ning hurried over to Vantu, concerned. "Senior brother, were you ambushed by the undead too?" His face was covered in wounds, grimacing as he explained, They suddenly surrounded me and I couldn't even send out a distress signal." Truk Van Trien watched the two figures supporting each other to stand up, his hands unconsciously clenched into fists. Within him, an angel and a devil were struggling against each other. Truk Van Trien lightly bit his lip. His teeth clenched tightly, the stick in his hand was unconsciously broken in half. In the dark night, he stood still, his cold eyes reflecting sorrow. One hand clenched tightly while the other was raised slightly as a signal. The next day, the white horse grazed leisurely. Tu Nin stood with her arms crossed, watching Vantu. Sitting against a tree, she asked with concern if his injured foot was too serious to continue on the journey with them to exorcise demons. She gently said, "I have sent a signal. Trio Tuvong will send someone to pick you up." Vantu, with a face full of wounds, stubbornly argued, "Junior sister, I can still hold on." Tu Nin turned away, firmly replied, "Let's decide this way. Listen to me." This left Vantu speechless. Suddenly a sound startled him. Two senior uncles of Truk Van adjusted behind him, arms crossed calmly, adding fuel to the fire. "Look at you there. If you can't even take care of yourself, how can you chase after the master?" Lavantu glanced at him lightly. Casually replied, "Do you think I don't know? What happened yesterday was done by you, right?" He frowned and continued, "Guess what, if I tell Junior sister about this? How will she handle it?" Van Trien heard this. Her mouth slightly lifted. She replied softly. He crossed his arms and casually challenged, "Why don't the two senior uncles see if she believes me or Lavantu?" He also retorted, "I have evidence, of course Junior sister will believe it." He looked up at Truk Van, who remained leisurely with her arms crossed, looking ahead without reacting. He smiled calmly and said, "Do you want to trick me? If you had evidence, you would have said it already? Why waste words here? You seem very happy, don't you?" He smiled and replied, "Of course, this is the first time we are coming down the mountain after confirming our relationship, and it's just the two of us." Truk Van Trien gave a flirtatious glance, sweetly said, "This is a date." This made Tu Nin's face turn beet red, stammering and unable to speak. Date. She tried to regain her seriousness and reminded him, "Where did you learn this nonsense?" Truk Van Trien continued to tease, "Why is the master shy?" The two were so busy flirting with each other that they didn't notice the fog rising in the forest. Tu Nin noticed something unusual and immediately became alert. Why did the fog suddenly rise? She looked at the fog thickening rapidly and reminded Truk Van Trien, who was lost in admiration. "This fog is rising very quickly. It's very unusual. It may be related to demons. We must be cautious." Truk Van Trien, enchanted by her, obediently replied, Master, don't worry." Suddenly, from afar, through the thin fog, a figure was sitting under a tree, constantly crying for help. The two stared for a long time. Tu Nin hurriedly urged the horse to run over. "He seems to be injured. Let's go check it out." The horse stopped in a lush green meadow. Tu Nin bent down to look at the man sitting against the tree and asked with concern, "This big brother, where are you injured?" The young man was holding his seriously injured leg, looking at them with a pitiful gaze. "My leg is broken. I can't move. You two are kind to help me." Tu Nin reached out to check the wound. "This is not an ordinary wound. It was caused by a demon." She turned to Zhuo Van Cheng and instructed, "I will stop the bleeding for him first. You go gather some herbs." He replied, "All right." It was unclear how long it took, but he eventually returned. At this moment, the two were sitting and talking to each other. In Zhuo Van Cheng's arms was a large bundle of medicine. From afar, he heard the young man say to Tu Nin, "Thank you, miss. Today, thanks to you and your husband's assistance, I might not have made it back." Zhu Cheng's gaze suddenly darkened upon hearing her respond. He is not my husband. The young man looked at her curiously. Not your husband. Zhu Nin saw that he was very close to her, and she clenched her fist, saying, he lied to me, making me feel responsible for him. He tricked me into agreeing to marry him. In this world, what I hate the most is being deceived by others. Hearing this, Zhu Cheng became even more anxious, tightly clutching the bundle of herbs in his hands. When he returns, I will completely sever ties with him. He dropped the bundle of herbs to the ground and hurried away. Zhu Cheng rushed forward, feeling an indescribable fear. How did the master find out so quickly? He anxiously kept explaining, Master, did you hear something that led to a misunderstanding? How could I deceive you? Zhu Nin replied indifferently, misunderstanding. She frowned and replied, I drink your blood. If there are silkworm threads in me, you will also sprout wings, as if you used this to deceive me, right? Zhu Cheng was startled. You know everything. Then he suddenly grasped her hand tightly. Zhu Nin shook him off. I don't care for his explanations. Master, I just want to be with you forever. I cannot lose you. But all she received was the cold response, get out. She resolutely replied, in this life, I Zhu Nin swear that I will never love you. Zhu Cheng was stunned to hear her say that, his expression darkening oddly. These words left him speechless. Zhu Cheng shouted in front of Zhu Nin, you will never love me in this life. Tears flowed down his face as he murmured, good, very good. His face was drenched in tears, his mouth constantly repeating, if I had known this earlier, I should not have let you out of that secret chamber. I should not have foolishly hoped that you would develop feelings. He tightly embraced her shoulders and suddenly pushed her hard against a large tree. Zhu Nin was stunned by his insane actions. Seeing tears streaming down his face, she exclaimed, Zhu Cheng, what do you want to do? Leaving a question hanging, Zhu Cheng slowly moved closer. His head slightly bowed silently, adding in his heart, I want to do what I should have done a long time ago. Then he overstepped, opening his mouth to bite her delicate neck. He held on like that for a long time, and Zhu Nin blushed, moaning in pain. Ah. And then scolded, you rebellious one daring to commit sacrilege, my master will definitely expel you from the sect. Tears rolled down the sharp-cheeked young man's face, seemingly showing no signs of drying. He dejectedly questioned, so what can I do, master? This is all we know. The only way to keep the master was that he choked on expressing his feelings in the clumsiest way. His lips gradually moved up to her ear, becoming more and more outrageous. Instantly, his heart tightened. Literally, he was shocked momentarily, not understanding what was happening. His whole body was forced away. His chest ached, lightly touching it. He wondered, what's going on? Just now, I didn't see the master push anything away. The figure of her in front of him became more and more blurry. He stared in astonishment. The fog was getting thicker. Only her unintentional eyes looking at him remained. Until her face became clear again, Zhu Nin was still the gentle Zhu Nin of old. She kept reassuring, stay a bit more alert. What you just heard and saw is an illusion created by the monster. Illusion. He gasped tiredly, murmuring in doubt. At that moment, the young man spoke up to explain, that's right. Just now when you went to gather firewood, this young lady and I fell into an illusion. Chukvan vaguely turned to listen as he continued, we just regained our senses when you returned, and you opened your mouth to say some really strange things. Understanding the situation, he helplessly looked into the void, thinking that those heartless words just now were all fake. Immediately after, he inquired, wait a minute. At this moment, did the master also fall into an illusion? What did she look like? She turned her head to avoid, casually replied, nothing, no need to mention. Then tightened the reins, preparing to set off. Recently, monsters can create illusions. They are much more powerful than before. We should find a place to rest before setting off again tomorrow. He obediently replied, I will listen to the master. The woodcutter was very grateful, saying, you two are my lifesavers. My home is not far from the mountain village. How about you two stop by for a bit? While helping the young man onto the horse, he was kind. Thinking that there have been no guests recently, despite his injured leg, he was determined to take him home. Similarly, she had the same thought, so she instructed Von Trien to help him onto the horse. Tonight we will stay at his house. After helping him into the carriage, he thought respectfully, since the master called me Von Trien, surely she wouldn't be angry, right? It's not easy to have come this far with the master. I can't let all my efforts go to waste. Then he sighed in relief. At this time, in a house deep in the valley having arrived, the young man realized the awkwardness. Awkwardly arranging our house only has 2 beds. This young master will sleep with me. How about the young lady sleeping with my mother? After a brief silence, she shyly said she wouldn't disturb the 2 of them anymore. We could sleep on the floor. But the woodcutter refused. There's no way to let guests sleep on the ground. How could that be? How could we let the lifesavers sleep on the floor? He then suggested, how about I and this young master sleep on the floor instead? The woodcutter immediately agreed, okay. The lady decided that way. On a moonlit night, the sky was dark as ink. Xiao Ning was sleeping soundly. She was sensitive to the sounds around her and suddenly opened her eyes wide in alertness. Her nimble hands quickly grasped the sword. She sat up abruptly and shouted, "Who is there?" Truk Von Trien calmly replied, "It's me, master." He pretended to be pitiful and suggested, "Can I sleep with you, master?" But not believing her ears, she exclaimed, "What?" He immediately put on a puppy dog expression and said that their bed was not enough and the floor was too cold. Moreover, his wound was open and he was running a fever. If she didn't believe him, she could check his forehead was very hot. She silently assessed him and ultimately softened, saying, "No need to check, you sleep on the edge, each on one side, no invading." Achieving his goal, he excitedly replied, "Thank you, master." The atmosphere was a bit awkward. As they lay peacefully, he suddenly turned to her and called, "Master!" Seeing she didn't respond, Truk Von Trien's eyes showed a bit of disappointment. He felt restless, grabbed a strand of her hair, and began to sniff it, making her uncomfortable. She swore that if he dared to touch her again, she would definitely... But when he actually wrapped his arms around her and fell asleep peacefully, Xiao Ning's face turned red, not knowing what to do. Xiao Ning lay on her side, concentrating her spiritual energy in her hand, angrily raised her head and shouted, "I warn you, Truk Von Trien, out of consideration for your injury. I warn you, once let go." Truk Von Trien seemed not to hear her, continuously pressing his body against hers and whining, "Master, tomorrow is my 14th birthday. Can you come out to celebrate with me?" Hearing him, she couldn't help but feel confused, asking herself, 14th birthday on this tiny bed. She gently turned over, facing his face, and raised her slender, beautiful hands to touch Truk Von Trien's forehead. She was astonished, wondering, so hot could it be that he's starting to talk nonsense? She gently patted his hand, coaxing, "Put your hand on it, I'll treat you." But after a while, there was still no response. He didn't move at all. Finally, she helplessly sighed and placed her hand on his chest. She channeled her spiritual energy, her hand glowing with a golden light. She conceded, thinking, "All right then, I'll show some mercy first." Once again, she raised her hand to touch his forehead, feeling it was cooler. She satisfiedly thought, it's no longer hot, job done. Her eyelids were beginning to feel heavy with sleep, and the 2 of them peacefully lay hugging each other on the small bed. Truk Von Trien's eyelids slightly moved, his eyes slowly opened, looking back at the previous incense stick. Trus Von Trien disregarded the cold weather and dressed lightly to go outside against the wind. He thought contentedly in the late-night chill, letting the wind blow for half an hour would surely make him catch a cold. Then he removed the bandage on his arm, scheming deeply, thinking the wound should be exposed so that Master would feel sorry for him. He contentedly held her in his arms, thinking that being able to sleep with Master on just one bed made the ordeal of enduring the cold wind worthwhile. Early the next morning, outside the inn, the young man reluctantly saw off Xiao Ning and Truk Von Trien, saying, "Benefactor." Xiao Ning also politely and gently replied, "Since the sooner the evil is dealt with, the better, so I won't disturb you any longer." Suddenly, an elderly woman with gray hair came out and stopped them with 2 people saying, "Oh, wait a minute." She held a set of bright red clothing in her hands, gently saying to her, "Miss, your clothes are torn. Change into this one, it's clean." She stepped forward, slightly obediently, saying, "Thank you, Grandma." The elderly woman had been smiling joyfully all this time. After tidying up her clothes for a while, her appearance startled the old woman. Her face became serious and stern. Pointing at Xiao Ning, the old woman said, "You wearing clothes of this color seems to be..." She stood there confused, listening to the old woman continue. I recognize you. You are the con artist who came to the village to exorcise evil 2 years ago. Hearing this, she felt suspicious, self-reflecting on being called a con artist. Seeing the old woman speaking uncontrollably, the young man quickly stepped in to stop her and reminded, "Mom, what nonsense are you talking about? This is the benefactor who saved me yesterday. You can't say such things." The old woman firmly rebutted, "I'm not talking nonsense. 2 years ago she came here. I remember her name. It's Zhu Nin." Recollecting that night, her blurry figure appeared, and the old woman continued. "At that time, she came alone, claiming to be very good at exorcising evil." Continuing to remember the chaos that Zhu Nin caused, she recounted. As a result, she couldn't even remember her talismans, and in between it resulted in the death of Xiao Ning in the village. Then before leaving, she even said strange words. In the old woman's memory, she nervously stammered repeatedly, "This really can't be blamed on me. I'm leaving now." Sorry. Hearing the old woman recount, she stroked her chin, pondering and asking herself, "What does sorry mean?" She stroked her chin, lost in thought. "I've never heard of this word. Even if one has amnesia, one shouldn't be able to say that. There must be some hidden truth in this." From a distance, Truk Van noticed her expression and actions, and she began to speculate about her master's expression. She must be starting to doubt the amnesia. His eyes narrowed sharply. Calculating, "I had contact with that Zhu Nin for 2 years. Thinking back, there are indeed many suspicious points." Remembering her sitting on the bed, resting her chin and lamenting, "It's so boring without a phone to play with." Or the image of Zhu Nin playing in the mud like a child, then praising this mud bowl. "Not bad, let's try molding it." Or her sitting there, poking at a plate of vegetables, unhappily saying, "Eating this every day is so boring, I really want to eat KFC fried chicken." He also remembered himself hiding behind a tree, watching Zhu Nin and Levantu being close, thinking, "It was just at that time I was shocked by the intimacy between Zhu Nin and others, missing those suspicious points." Remembering countless different appearances of Zhu Nin, he now thought, "No wonder I had a strange feeling about her back then." She was someone who had secluded herself for 5 years, but in fact, she had already emerged 2 years ago. And also at that time, 2 years ago, her personality had changed greatly. He pondered, stroking his chin, wondering if the beautiful image of her could conclude that his master had been possessed. Chuk Van Trien stood in deep thought, reflecting on the differences between her 2 periods. He was lost in thought, wondering if his master had been possessed. Looking at Xiao Ning with a head full of questions, he pondered what the mystery of amnesia was. Then he answered himself his master could not see for himself what he looked like during that time. Surely he couldn't guess that he would be possessed so quickly. Suddenly, his expression turned serious. His hands clenched, fearing that if she found out he had deceived her, it might ruin the engagement. Not knowing how confident Truk Van Trien was, he only saw him clenching his fists confidently, thinking that he must make his master quickly realize that she loves him. In the end, all that was left at that village was just the 2 silhouettes of the 2 people. This village is not short of demons, and they are not as weak as before. The 2 of them stood side by side to eliminate them. Zhu Nin worriedly reminded him that around Thon Tuong Sun there were indeed many more powerful demons than before. The 2 coordinated their attacks, and she devised a strategy. "I will support you." The 2 of them broke through the encirclement together, and the demons escaped from danger. She sheathed her sword and said, "The sky is already dark. The demons in the 3 directions of east, west, and south have all been eliminated." She gently wiped the dirt off her face, calculating that now only the demons in the north remain, and she heard that those demons are quite formidable.